Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL scope and my team selection video for Game Week 13. But before we get into my Game Week 13 plans and also my free hit draft for Game Week 13, we have to take a look at what happened back in Game Week 12, which was before the international break, and that was actually a really good game week for me. I ended up with 89 points, and that takes me up to 761 points overall in total, and an overall rank of about 161k, which is really, really good at this point of the season, especially considering the fact that I still haven't used a wildcard yet, like many other people have done. So I have my wildcard in check for Game Week 19, most likely. I might have to use it earlier if there are like a lot of issues coming up, but I think my team is looking pretty good so far, so I think I'm going to survive until Game Week 19, and that's going to give me a huge boost towards the latter half of the season, especially with the wildcard in Game Week 19. So pretty excited about that, pretty excited about my rank. Only 40 points behind the top 10k now, which is always my goal, to get into the top 10k. So I'm getting closer. I was 50 points behind top 10k in Game Week 11, and now I'm 40 points behind, so I'm scratching and clawing and getting ever closer to that magical line of being in the top 10k in the world. So yeah, that's what I'm going for. When it comes to Game Week 12, the main reason that I had a really good game week was the Liverpool players that I had. I had Salah as captain, and he got 2 goals against Brentford. He's just Mr. FPL. Salah, he's just a fantastic player overall, a fantastic player in FPL, fantastic player in terms of being one of the best players in the Premier League of all time as well. I think he's still severely underrated by most people when it comes to Premier League accolades, but most people have him now in FPL, and yeah, still I think he's just undervalued in general. But 2 goals from him, 32 points, really good. Haaland actually matched him with two goals and then also an assist for Man City in that huge 4-4 game between Man City and Chelsea. So a lot of points from those guys. But also the main benefactor for my team was Kostas Tsimikas, who, if you've watched my content before the international break, I was really unsure about keeping in my team in general. I was really close, actually, or at least like seriously considered selling Tsimikas for Lascelles, because I just felt like Tsimikas was not nailed going forward. I felt like Joe Gomez was going to play, because that's what happened in Game Week 11. Joe Gomez played rather than Tsimikas. So I didn't really have much faith in him, and I also felt like Lascelles would be like a safe pick for the foreseeable future, because it seemed like Botman was going to be out for a while. But now it seems like Botman is going to be pretty soon, or back pretty soon-ish, so Lascelles would not have been a good pick at all. And Tsimikas actually played and got 2 assists, 15 points with a clean sheet as well. So just a huge swing for me in terms of points and in terms of the team going forward as well. So really happy I didn't do any transfers, and that means that I also have 2 transfers to use in this game week 13 as well. So that gives me another huge advantage. And so yeah, let's just go into what is going to happen in game week 13, because I do have a couple potential things I can do. So yeah, let's take a look at that. So yeah, these are my Game Week 13 plans as of right now. As you can see, my team has a lot of flagged players, a lot of yellow flag players, but all the 3 flag players in the starting lineup should not be an issue at all. It seems like Udogie is now fully fit. He's ready to play against Aston Villa. Ange Postecoglou confirmed that today, Friday, that Udogie is fit to play, so that's not going to be an issue. Manny Cash wasn't even brought up, I think, in the Aston Villa press conference, because his shoulder injury was before the last game he played for Aston Villa as well. It's just the fact that he was staying away for international break as well, from playing with Poland, because he just wanted to be like completely sure that he was going to be fine. So I think Cash is going to start. I think Udogie is going to start. Obviously, they play each other, so that's not ideal for this game week. And that is basically just a theme throughout my whole team, basically, this game week, is the fact that basically all my players are playing each other. I have Flecken in goal playing against Arsenal, and then I have Gabriel and Saka on the pitch playing against Brentford. I have Udogie and Son playing against Aston Villa, and then Aston Villa players Cash and Diaby playing against Spurs. So it's looking like a difficult game week. And then we also have Salah playing for against Man City for Liverpool, with Haaland and Alvarez playing against Salah and Liverpool. So just a bunch of players facing each other. I also have Tsimikas, who I actually have benched for now. I'm not so sure about Tsimikas. I think maybe they go a bit more defensive and have Joe Gomez play this game. So Tsimikas has also been away with the international break and stuff. So I'm not entirely sure about Tsimikas as a prospect, and they're also facing Man City at the Etihad, so they're most likely going to concede. So I feel like Udogie and Cash are just better options, as well as Gabriel as well, of course, who's the best defensive option, I think, in the game currently. Kabore is going to be out. That was confirmed as well today, so I can't really use him against Crystal Palace, but at the same time I expect Luton to lose against Crystal Palace, so I probably wouldn't have used Kabore anyway, but he is confirmed to be out as well for my team. So the defense sort of picks itself. Udogie and Cash playing against each other. I guess I could hope for a 0-0 result there, but then at the same time I have Son and Diaby who I want to score goals, so maybe I want Udogie and Cash to get attacking returns and then still concede somehow, or maybe one of them to get subbed or both of them to get subbed before 60 and then Son and Diaby to score. Like, there are some ways where I could get points for all 4 players, but it's really unlikely, and that's what makes this game week sort of like an iffy game week in general. But still, I have two free transfers, but I'm still sort of leaning towards just using one of them because I feel like I need the flexibility for next week, because I feel like there are a lot of good, especially attacking options in the forward line that will present themselves in the next game week. So most likely I'm just looking at one transfer, and that is looking to be Mitoma out, because Mitoma is out for this game week against Nottingham Forest. He's not going to play. And I have 3 main considerations, I guess. I do have another transfer plan that I'm going to present to you after going through these single game week or single transfer options. But if I do the one transfer where I sell Mitoma and bring in a replacement for him, I can either go with Mbeumo, just get him a week early. He plays Luton at home in game week 14, which is going to be a really good game week for him, but Arsenal at home is not really the best game week, so I might as well just start Archer against Bournemouth at home, I feel like, if I'm doing that. But I also want to sell Mitoma, so yeah, Mbeumo is sort of a decent option because he's going to be really good for game week 14 onwards, and I don't really know about how I would get Mbeumo into my team if I don't bring him in for Mitoma, but yeah, that's one of the options. Another option is Mohamed Kudus for West Ham. He is probably going to play a bit more now for West Ham going forward because Mikel Antonio is injured. But apparently now Antonio's injury isn't as bad as first reported. First it was reported he was going to be out a couple months and stuff. He was probably going to be out until the new year at least. But now it seems like he's just a couple weeks away, which is, to be fair, almost into the new year still. But yeah, I think both his injury and potential Bowen injury is going to bode well for Kudus' minutes, but I'm not sure how it will feature in terms of Kudus' point potential. But I do think Kudus is a really good differential. I think he's just a really special talent, really special player. He doesn't have the best underlying stats, and especially last game against Nottingham Forest, where West Ham scored 3 goals, he wasn't really close to scoring either. So that's sort of like a thing with Kudus where I'm slightly hesitant. But at the same time, he might have to play as a striker going forward because Antonio is out, and West Ham don't really have a proper striker. They have Danny Ings, who's way past it as a footballer, and then they have Divine Mubama, who is he's probably not going to play at all because Moyes doesn't really trust him to play at this moment in time. So I think Kudus can play in a really advanced role and be a really good player for West Ham. So he is in consideration for me. There is one West Ham player that I considered more than him before some injury news, but I'm going to talk about that in the next slide pretty soon. But currently, I'm sort of leaning towards just doing the one transfer, and the one transfer being Mitoma to Palmer. That gives me the most amount of flexibility for next game week. I'm sort of just giving up on this game week in general because there are a lot of tough matches in general for all the teams playing. As you'll see with my free hits draft as well, not that many good options to choose from this week. So yeah, I might as well just do the Mitoma to Palmer move and have the most amount of flexibility. That will give me, I think, 1.7 million in the bank, and also 2 free transfers for next game week. And that gives me a lot of options where I can sell Alvarez for Darwin, for example. I can potentially also do Son to Mbeumo and then Archer to Darwin if I want to keep Alvarez. A couple things I can do there. Also, I'm not 100% sure about getting Darwin next week, even though it seems like, from what I just said, it seems like I am. But there are so many good forward options that I really want to get into my team. And Alvarez might be one of them. I'm not 100% sure about what to do with Alvarez going forward. And he's also sort of like an interesting conundrum for Game Week 13 as well, because he has played for Argentina during the international break. He might get rested now against Liverpool, or at least start the game on the bench. So I don't know, but at the same time, we're probably going to get leaks from that game because that is the first game of the game week, and that means we'll probably get early team news. So if I get team news that Alvarez is out, I might also sell him, but the reason that I'm not 100% comfortable about selling Alvarez this game week is the fact that the other like forward options aren't really the best for this game week in particular. We have a lot of good forward options in potentially in game week 15 or game week 14 or game week 15. But that's due to several other factors. So we have Darwin, for example, who's the one that I've mentioned the most so far. He plays Man City, obviously, in this game week. Man City away, really tough fixture, so it's not really the ideal fixture to do a transfer from Alvarez to Darwin. He has a lot better fixtures from game week 14 onwards, so that's why I'm sort of leaning towards doing the transfer next week rather than this week. Then we also have guys like Alexander Isak, who is still like, is he going to be back for Newcastle's game against Chelsea? He's for sure going to be back for game week 14, but game week 13 might be a bit early for Isak, so I wouldn't be too comfortable selling Alvarez to get Isak either. We have someone like Solanke who's definitely going to play and is definitely someone I can afford. Even just selling Alvarez straight up, I can afford him. So he's also like a decent option, but I'm not 100% sold on Solanke as an option either. And then we also have Christopher Nkunku for Chelsea, who is also working himself back into fitness, but he's not going to be available for this game week, so I'm obviously not going to sell Alvarez to get him this game week either. But I do think Nkunku is a really good option once he gets fit to play, and that might be in game week 14, might be in game week 15. Same thing goes for Isak as well. He might be back for game week 13, might be back for game week 14. But I really like all those options, especially Isak with Wilson out injured until around the new year. I think Isak is going to play up front for Newcastle for the next like 4 to 6 game weeks, and that's perfect for me because yeah, I think Isak is a tremendous player, and Newcastle forward, whoever it is, has always been performing this season. Both Wilson and Isak have performed really well this season, even though they like sort of share the minutes up front for Newcastle. So I think Isak is a really good option, and I think Darwin is a really good option. So I really want to change into a 3 forward formation. So that might be something that I do. I am sort of considering selling Son next game week, not this game week, because I still want to give him one more shot to prove himself. I'm not 100% sure about Spurs now that they have Maddison out with long-term injury, Van de Ven out with long-term injury. It seems like they're sort of in a rough patch now, Spurs. But at the same time, they've only played 1 game since Maddison got injured, and that was against Wolverhampton away. And that is a much tougher fixture than what it looks like on paper, because Wolverhampton have actually been pretty good at home this season. So I'm really interested to see what happens in this Spurs-Aston Villa game. And the fact that I can't really predict what's going to happen in the game sort of makes me want to play both sets of players, because I feel like I could potentially, like, if I bench the Spurs players, those guys could punish me, and if I bench the Aston Villa players, those guys could punish me. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure about that game, and it's going to be really interesting in terms of what I do with my assets as well, because Cash and Diaby, with the tougher fixtures that they get now coming up, might be players that I look to sell. Same goes for Son as well. He might be someone that I look to sell. So that's going to be a really interesting game to watch in terms of what I do in the future. So yeah, there's a lot of things I could do with my team in general, but most likely for now, meet them out using a single transfer. Leaning towards Palmer, I could be convinced about Kudus. I might go with Mbeumo just for safety's sake, just because I kind of want Mbeumo in my team, especially for game week 14. But currently I'm leaning towards just buying Palmer for Mitoma and then getting Palmer in and subbing off Archer. And Archer is actually like an interesting player because he plays Bournemouth at home, which is a really good fixture, but at the same time he plays for Sheffield United, who are a really bad team, and Archer hasn't really produced any underlying numbers that should suggest that he's a good option. He could be a decent option though because of the fixture. So he could be just like a nice backup option in case Alvarez doesn't start, but even if Alvarez doesn't start, I might just prefer 30 minutes of Alvarez over 90 minutes from Archer. So yeah, that's going to be a tough call, what I do with the striker position there. But if I do meet him out to Palmer, Palmer definitely comes in for Archer, and then I have to make a decision between Alvarez and Archer. So that's pretty much the decisions that I have. Kabore is obviously going to be on the bench. Chimeka's most likely going to be on the bench. Maybe if I get some sort of like last minute thoughts about the Spurs Aston Villa game where I want to bench either Udogie or Cash, maybe I do that, but most likely no. Most likely I'm gonna start with both Udogie and Cash and just hope for the best, I guess. So those are some of the plans that I have. If I do just one transfer, these are the 3 options that I have most likely. But there is one more option that I have been considering for the past 3-4 game weeks. It was probably what I was going to do before some injury news, but let's go ahead and talk about the other plans that I might have. And that is getting in Jarrod Bowen. So Jarrod Bowen is still an injury doubt for this game. He had to withdraw from the England squad during the international break because of a knee issue. Earlier this week, there were some rumors that he had some fluid in his knee and that he was going to be out for a couple of weeks maybe. But now, in today's press conference, David Moyes said that he hopes Bowen will be available to play, and they're just going to decide tomorrow if he's going to play or not. So probably going to leave the transfers closer to the deadline, because if Bowen is fit to play and plays from start, I think he's the best captaincy option this week. Like, if I was promised that Bowen would play 90 minutes in this game, I think he's a better captain's option than what I have in Mohamed Salah currently, because Salah plays against Man City away, which is a tough fixture. I know Haaland is sort of the more like favorite captain, but he's also been struggling with some issues. I'm not fully trusting him. I also don't really trust City to score too many goals against Liverpool. I mean, it is usually a high-scoring game, but I don't know. I sort of just prefer Salah because I think he's just like, I know he's fully fit. I know he's going to play the full match. Haaland, I don't know. Like, I have this bad feeling about Haaland. Usually when he's like struggling with injuries, he's not that reliable of an FPL asset. So it sort of puts me off a little bit, the fact that he has been struggling with an issue after he got injured in the first Norway game against Faroe Islands. So yeah, I just feel stronger about Salah as captain than Haaland, but at the same time, I don't really feel strong about either of them that much. So I feel like this is a really good game week to get a differential captain. But for now, Salah is actually a decent differential captain because most people are going with Haaland and potentially someone else. Son is also a decent captaincy option, I guess, but I don't really fully trust Spurs currently without Maddison and just the way they've looked the last few weeks. So I'm probably not going to do that. I'm probably just going to keep Son and just hope for the best, I guess, with him. But my one true fantasy captain option that I really wanted to use this game week was Jared Bowen, and if he was fully fit, this would probably be my my transfers 100%. Do Mitoma to Bowen, and to do that I would have to get some funds into my team, and I would do that by selling Diaby to get Palmer. Diaby, like I said, is someone that I'm sort of 50-50 on when it comes to keeping him or not, because I feel like Spurs away and Bournemouth away could be tough. It could be good for Diaby. It's tough to gauge Aston Villa as a team, especially away from home this season. At home, they've been fantastic, but away from home, they haven't had the best results, but at the same time, they've also had really tough opposition. So it just depends how good Spurs and Bournemouth really are at this moment, because Spurs have been really, really good, but they're sort of on a downward trajectory, and Bournemouth has sort of been the opposite. They've been really, really bad, and now they're sort of starting to look better. So I don't really know what to take from those two fixtures, and I don't really know what to expect from Diaby in those fixtures as well. But I think Diaby, he proved against Newcastle in the opener away that he can score away, and he also had another game, I think it was, I can't remember, but they beat another team 3-0, I think, away from home pretty early in the season, where Diaby had a goal and an assist. So I really like Diaby as an option, but I sort of prefer Bowen and the potential captaincy with him, I think, especially if he was fully fit. But just the injury doubts with Bowen is making me more likely to just do Mitoma to Palmer and just leave it at that, and just leave Bowen out of my team for now, I guess, just because of the injury issues. So yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts for my Game Week 12 plans, or Game Week 13 plans, I should say. So yeah, I might get convinced to get Bowen. It just depends on the team news before the deadline, right before the deadline. So it's going to be like a deadline decision for me tomorrow. But yeah, I'll see what I do with my team. But if I don't get Bowen, I'm probably going to stick with Salah as captain. I feel like he is just, I don't know, I just really feel comfortable captaining Salah in any game. And he also has a really good record against City in general. And this is usually a pretty high-scoring game, like I said. So I could see this, I predict this game to be a 2-2 match. And I feel like at the moment, especially with the Haaland slight injury concerns, I feel like Salah is more likely to be in amongst the goals if it's a draw than Haaland is. So yeah, I just prefer Salah. I think it's nice to have Salah as a differential captain, and I just really like Salah as a captain's option regardless of the fixture, really. So that's why I'm the most comfortable with captaining him if Bowen is not going to come into my team. So yeah, that pretty much concludes my plans for Game Week 13. So let's move on to the free hit, both the plans for my free hit in Game Week 13, not because I'm not going to use my free hit, but if I were to use a free hit, I'm going to show you a draft, because the last few weeks I've actually done like a free hit draft for these team selection videos, and spoiler alert, it always ends up pretty damn bad. So as I always say, let's just move on to the terrible free hit result that I had this past game week. So 49 points in my Game Week 12 free hit draft. Just another atrocious free hit for me. And this is what I stress every time with the free hit. I think free hit is more like a nice chip to use to make the game weeks before and after the free hit good, rather than having the free hit be a really good game week. So for me, I prefer using the free hit in, for example, game week 18. If you have already used your wildcard, having a bunch of City and Brentford players who you can just swap out on the free hit in game week 18 and get them back for game week 19. I prefer sort of that tactic rather than like trying to optimize a squad for a single game week. So yeah, but if you're like sort of in a pinch and you have like 8 flagged players or something, and you just need to do something for this game week, you need to buy yourself some time for one game week, then sure, you can use the free hit. But I would probably go against it, especially seeing how bad I am with the free hit drafts in general. But I'm still gonna keep trying. Maybe it will turn around eventually. Maybe I'll do better. But yeah, this past game week, 49 points, which was terrible. It was actually 40 points less than my own team, and that's down to not having Salah as captain, not having Chimikas, who I had in my own team, and not having Haaland as well in the free hit draft. So yeah, pretty bad in general. And also my 3 favorite differentials all blanked. I thought Gordon would be really good against a really, at that time, hapless Bournemouth team, where Gordon was going to play as a striker. I thought that would be a really good differential, but Gordon actually struggled more as a striker. I think he's going to be better on the left wing with Isak coming back as well. Rasmus Højlund, as always, he's been one of my favorite differentials the past few game weeks, but as we all know, he doesn't have a Premier League goal so far. But it's not for the lack of trying, because he had a lot of huge chances, and especially this past game week as well, game week 12. He had several really good chances to score, but he just can't seem to put the ball into the net in terms of in the Premier League. He has 4 goals in the Champions League, which is really good, but in the Premier League, he's just been awful as an asset. So yeah, another really bad differential shot there. Also, the final differential shot I have was sort of just like in jest. It was Estepinian, but this was before the news that he was re-injured. I made this free hit draft, I sort of prepared this free hit draft before we knew for a fact that he was going to be out against Sheffield United. But I thought if he was fit to play against Sheffield United, I think it would have been a nice differential option. But yeah, he didn't play. He was also on my bench in the free hit draft because of that fact. So yeah. Either way, my favorite differential assets just keep performing badly, so hopefully I can have some jinxing powers to those guys, I guess. But either way, Watkins got a goal at least, so at least I got some points for my captain. But all in all, just a terrible free hit draft for yet another game week. So yeah, maybe that shouldn't entice you to go with my free hit draft for game week 13, but what the heck, I try anyway to make a good free hit draft happen. So yeah. This is my game week 13 free hit draft, and as you can see, a lot of away fixtures. I think, pretty much everyone apart from Haaland play away, and Haaland plays against Liverpool. So that tells you everything you need to know about the potential free hit points from this game week. I just don't think it's a good game week in general, both in terms of your own team and in terms of using a free hit to get a better team. Just don't think there are that many good fixtures to choose from here. But yeah. Let's just go through the team anyway. I have 2 Crystal Palace defenders. Crystal Palace have been one of the best defensive teams so far this season. So both Johnston and Joachim Andersen gets a place in this team against Luton. I feel like they have the best chance of a clean sheet among the lesser teams. Potentially among all teams, to be honest. So I feel like Johnston and Andersen, who are both really good when it comes to bonus, are decent options on a free hit. Then we have Gabriel Magalhaes, who I always just keep faith in for some reason. He hasn't really returned in terms of points, but it's only a matter of time with Arsenal getting that good defensive numbers and that many goals from set pieces. It has to just be a matter of time before Gabriel gets the goal and clean sheet and the 15 points that we all kind of hope for with Gabriel each season. So yeah, he's in the team. Then we have Ryan Aït-Nouri, who actually posts some pretty good offensive numbers, and he plays against Fulham, which is one of the worst teams in the league, in my opinion. So I think Aït-Nouri is a good option. Then we have Salah as captain, as I mentioned a couple of times before. Saka, who I haven't really talked about that much, I still think he's a decent option. I probably could go with someone more fun than Saka, but at the same time, after seeing Brentford lose 3-0 against Liverpool last time, I feel like Arsenal could do sort of the same thing. So Saka, I feel like, is a nice, safe option, I guess. He's also going to be on penalties, most likely, even though we've seen him in the past give away penalties, so maybe not, but yeah. Then we have Bruno Fernandes, who always seems to do really well against Everton. I do think Everton is going to take away the win in this match. So maybe Bruno Fernandes isn't the best pick. Maybe I'm sort of trying to help my co-host Kevin with this and jinx Bruno Fernandes for this game. But he usually performs really well against Everton, and he's just been in really good form lately as well for Portugal especially. So So yeah, I think he's a nice option for a free hit. And then we have Thomas Souček, who I actually really like for this game week, especially because we have Antonio out and we have potentially Bowen out as well. I think Souček will be allowed to roam forward a lot more, and that's usually when he's at his best. He's been really good when it comes to goal scoring lately as well. Scored for the Czech Republic in the international break. He scored against Nottingham Forest and had another huge chance against Nottingham Forest as well the past game week. So I think Souček is in sort of like a good moment, and I think he's also going to benefit a lot from not having Antonio there. We need, I say we as a West Ham fan, West Ham need Souček to be like a presence in the box more often now with Antonio not being there. So I think Souček is going to be a really good option going forward, to be honest. So I don't really, even as like someone as a differential pick, Souček might be a really good pick for the long term as well. Maybe I even get convince myself to get Souček rather than Palmer, but I just think Palmer is just a nice, safe, long-term option in general, so that's why I'm sort of preferring Palmer. But Souček I really like as a differential as well, but I sort of listed Bruno Fernandes instead as a favorite midfield differential just because I sort of wanted to jinx Fernandes rather than jinxing Souček if I do actually have these jinxing powers with my free hit team. So let's see if that actually pans out this game week. Up front, I've gone with Haaland again. Just don't want to back against him, I guess, and I have money to spare, so Haaland just makes sense. Liverpool at home, it still should still be a decent fixture. Then we have Ollie Watkins against Spurs away. I think there are some decent chances for Aston Villa to score a lot of goals in this game. I think Spurs are really susceptible defensively with Basum out with suspension. Romero and Van de Ven are also out. Udogie is back now, so that's a help for Spurs. But I still think they are sort of there for the taking. I think they are going to be a pretty offensive team still, even though they have so many defensive issues. So I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game between Aston Villa and Spurs, and Watkins is basically the best asset I think for Aston Villa. So yeah, I'm backing Watkins on the free hit draft as well. And if I maybe have Solanke, who I mentioned as a potential transfer in if Alvarez is out. And I do really like his fixture against Sheffield United away, so it would be tempting to get him in for this game week, especially seeing as he scored twice against Newcastle, which is a much better team than Sheffield United. As you remember, Newcastle beat Sheffield United 8-0. So I can only imagine what Solanke can do against Sheffield United away, and that's why he's sort of like my favorite forward differential as well. Solanke. On the bench, I basically just have the cheapest possible players when it comes to Strakosha in goal, Kabore, who is not even going to play, so I probably switch him out for another playing 4.0 defender if you can find one, but most likely it would be Branthwaite instead. Anyway, so Branthwaite is like the best 4.0 defender, I think, especially long term, but also probably in this game week 13. And then finally, we have as the first bench option, just in case there are some issues with the starting 11. We have Bellegarde, who plays for Wolverhampton, who's on set pieces for Wolverhampton. He's looked really lively. He's played very few games so far this season, and that's partly because of suspension, partly because of injuries. But I think he is a really vital player for Wolverhampton when he's fit. And I think he is like sort of also going under the radar a little bit. So there are a lot of like cheap midfield options like Souček and Bellegarde I feel like are pretty good options, but currently Palmer is just a standout option playing for one of the best attacking players or best attacking teams in the league in Chelsea. And he's also on penalties, which is not something you can say about Souček or Bellegarde. So I think Palmer is the best option out of the cheap cut price midfielders, but I think both Bellegarde and Souček, if you already have Palmer and you still want to downgrade a midfielder and get a better striker, for example, for someone like Archer, I think both Bellegarde and Souček are both really good options for this game week and also for the next few game weeks as well. So those are some of my favorite differentials for this game week. So yeah, let's see if this free hit draft can actually do well, can actually do better than my own team. I wonder, I should probably like try to calculate how many points I would have lost if I had the free hit every single week, which is kind of crazy because you expect when you have unlimited transfers every week, you expect to do better than when you have limited transfers. But for me, I guess maybe I'm better at looking at a long-term perspective rather than looking at like a short-term perspective. Maybe that's a flaw in my FPL skills, I guess, but we'll get to see what happens with this free hit draft. I think it's still fun to like make up the best possible team for each game week as well. So yeah, let's see what happens. But either way, that has been the team selection video for game week 13. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this week's content, and we'll be back for more next week when we get a lot of matches coming up. So yeah, it's going to be a fun time in FPL. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens in this game week as well. Game week 13, it is unlucky number 13 because yeah, it's looking like a pretty poor game week in general, but stranger things have happened than for a really poor team or poor looking team on paper to turn out to be really good. So we'll see what happens. But either way, thank you for this for watching this video. Hope you can like the video as well if you enjoyed it, or subscribe, or both ideally. And I'll see you again next time. So thank you and goodbye.